Arkansas Gymnastics keeps flying high, and the Muss Bus shows some fight against the Cats. Plus, Coach Neighbors and the women's basketball team keep finding ways to win.
You hear that? You hear that? That's special. There's a lot of lions, tigers, and bears, but there ain't but one razorback.
Madden for maybe the win. Oh! The follow is good. Arkansas in overtime. I think he just made SportsCenter again.
Arkansas is in hog heaven. They've won the first ever national championship.
All I want you to do tonight is play your best. Don't worry about making a mistake. You can make a mistake, that's fine, as long as you're going 100 miles an hour.
Welcome into episode 63 of the Woo Pig Weekly Podcast, your weekly source for all things Arkansas Razorbacks. Episode 63 is brought to you by Homefield, home of premium vintage collegiate apparel. You can use that promo code Variety Sports in all caps to receive 15% off that first order. In case you missed it, Homefield had a fantastic new Arkansas drop with six new pieces of clothing with hoodies, t-shirts with a new style. So go check them out. Fantastic stuff. I'm about to order myself some new Homefield apparel here pretty soon. So go check them out today. And we'll just jump right in. Not a ton of football news going on right now. You know, like we said last week, recruiting, that's pretty much what's going on. And strength and conditioning. Besides that, it's all pretty much just up in the air until spring practice starts. Like I said, not much going on. Anything you want to add there, Seth?
No, man. Just excited to finally get around to seeing some spring practice footage and things of that nature, and obviously the spring game, and just kind of get a little bit of a sight and eye test on where we look like we are. It's obviously hard to know too much, you know, this early, and even in spring practices and the red-white game and things of that nature. But just kind of seeing where some of the new pieces fit together. There's already been some videos here and there of the guys having some practice reps with each other and whatnot. And so definitely a lot of hype behind it all, but I'm nothing too telling yet as to kind of how things are going to shake out. So excited to see where all the chips fall.
Yeah, that's very true. And so we'll kind of just head that way, and we'll talk Arkansas basketball, where before we dive in here, there's, you know, things going on off and on out there, a lot of smoke, rumors around, you know, what's going on with Devo and his situation. And we're here on Woo Pig Weekly. We're not going to talk to you about anything unless it's fact. So, you know, for us here, we're just going to wish Devo the best with no matter what he's got going on. As far as anything else, until it's proof, fact, or anything like that, we're going to kind of stay away from that. And kind of following that up, you know, there's rumors out there now about Muss potentially leaving. I'm not even going to worry about that until, you know, there's actually that possibility and he's made a statement or something to that effect. But, you know, I don't think that's a real possibility. I think a lot of fans are just frustrated and are trying to find reasons or, you know, things to talk about or clickbait, if you will. And I don't see it happening after just one bad season. The only possibility that I could even see is if it's a West Coast school, you know, one of those, you know, California schools, because as we know, he's out there. He's from San Diego area. He visits there all the time. You know, we see it on his social media. Him and the family go out and visit, and, you know, pictures on the beach and whatnot. But, you know, I'm not too worried until, you know, there's more buzz starting to heat up and actually like actual facts of him going to visit, interview with these schools, things of that nature, or offers being made, things like that. So until then, you know, we're going to keep it straight, you know, facts here for you guys. And I don't know if you want to add anything on top of that before we dive into the games and stuff, Seth.
I don't have a whole lot to add. I'm kind of right alongside with you there. There's tons of rumors swirling about all kinds of different things, different players, obviously Coach Muss and the whole staff and whatnot, of people trying to find exit strategies and all that. I think it's just a lot of smoke. And I mean, there's been a lot of that debunked already, that a lot of the accounts that were creating those rumors weren't even, you know, real accounts. They were just, you know, accounts that had been 5 days old or something, things of that nature. So I think a lot of people are just, like you said, trying to have clickbait and just kind of rile up the fan base, which it's easy to do right now. Everybody's frustrated, and there's reasons for that. You know, obviously football kind of left a bad taste in everybody's mouth. We didn't have the season we wanted. It was a disappointment compared to expectations. And I think basketball is following that same pattern where everybody had fairly high expectations, you know, maybe not full championship, aspirations, but I think everybody thought we had a pretty good chance this year at having another deep run in the tournament, and that's just not looking like it's going to shape out. And so that's another kind of big disappointment compared to the expectation at the beginning of the season that fans are having to, kind of swallow, and that's a tough pill. So I understand, where the frustration comes from, but I don't understand, why fans think they have to try to amp up situations that don't need any more assistance on being frustrating, if that makes sense. So I don't understand that from the fan side of things, but try not to listen to too much of that stuff. That's for sure.
Yeah. And so we'll jump right in. Last week, our early week game, Arkansas went on the road to Ole Miss. That game is, like we've said it before, they just didn't look in it from the start. Lost that game 77-51. Your leading scorer was Khalif Battle, which is glad to see him getting more action involved, but he led all scorers with just 11 points. Joseph Pinion, a guy that has been up and down the season, hadn't seen a ton of minutes, was your second leading scorer with 10 points. And then you had Keon Minifield with 7. So when your 3 top scorers have 11, 10, and 7, that's not going to bode well with you to begin with. And then you look at the rebounding side of things, you have Trevor Brazile and Khalif Battle. Glad to see Trevor Brazile up there in the leading rebounders, but they only had 4 each. So, this team, we've said it last week, is constantly getting out-rebounded and out-battled down in the paint. And then, shooting-wise, Arkansas didn't have the best shooting night either. You look at their shots from the field, 33.3%, 17 of 51. They only shot 22% from the three-point line, going 5 of 22, and 66% from the charity stripe, going 12 of 18. So, it just wasn't a great game from the start, and it was, our continued struggles just went with us on the road in a game a lot of people had some optimism about, as we've always seemed to play pretty good against Ole Miss in basketball, not only besides football. So, quick thoughts around that game before we move on. There's not much to talk about with this game where we just didn't come out and perform.
Yeah, the one thing I will give Ole Miss some credit, they are a better team than they have been in probably 10 years, give or take. Get better coaching now for them for sure, and I think that's worked some wonders. So it's not the same Ole Miss team from years past that we've been able to kind of easily handle each year. They are better than they used to be. That said, we obviously didn't have a good game either, though. So, kind of two bad things at the worst time, if that makes sense, that added together to create a pretty substantial loss here. But, yeah, didn't shoot the ball well. We actually didn't get a lot of shots up. Only having 51 attempts is a little bit low for us. We're normally a little closer to the 60, 65 range. Didn't hit very many threes, going 5 of 22, and then really didn't get as many free throw attempts as normal either. So we weren't doing a very good job being aggressive and trying to get to the rim and drawing fouls. So just 47 things you can point to that we didn't do a very good job of in this game that all attributed to a loss. But that's about all I'll say about that.
Yeah, there's not much to continue on there. That's you can pull good things from. So we'll jump over to Arkansas women's basketball as they are continuing to find ways to win, being short-staffed, different players hurt, through different games. And so in this one, Arkansas comes out and gets a revenge win against Kentucky that gave them a loss in the opening SEC play. They got the win here 88-61 on January 25th. Leading scorers in this game was Michaela Daniels, your fifth-year senior, stepping up, giving you 22 points, followed by Miriam Dowda with 16 points, and Carly Keats and Carly Johnson both with 14 each. So you've got a great spread of scoring there, and it's not just one person leading the way. And I think that's, like we've said all season, as this team has developed throughout the season, you see a more spread out scoring than just, you have Talia Scott putting up 34 points a game, and then everybody else is chipping in 6, 7, 8 points. It's getting a lot more spread out, and I think that just shows you that this team is really finding their rhythm. When you jump over to the rebounding side of things, Samara Spencer and Miriam Dowda led the team with 7 each, followed by Carly Johnson and Michaela Daniels with 6 each, and Jenna Lawrence with 5. If you notice on that rebounding stats, you're missing a name there. Sailor Poffenbarger had to sit out this game due to an injury. Luckily, she was back the next game, so nothing super serious to worry about. And then shooting-wise, Arkansas had a fantastic shooting game in this one where they shot 46.4% from the field, going 32 of 69. 37% from the three-point line, going 10 of 27, and then 77.8% from the free throw line, going 14 of 18. So it's like we've said, when when their shooting is on, it's on in a big way, and I think you saw that right here in this game.
Yeah, and I think they really wanted to come out and kind of make a statement in this game, especially missing a few of the key pieces. You had some other players really step up big for us here. Michaela Daniels really kind of putting the team on her shoulders and got things going early, and then had several other teammates kind of pour in some buckets later in this game to stretch the lead as well. I think we got off to a pretty hot start, and at one point we're up 15-0 or 18-0, something like that, before Kentucky even scored their first bucket. So overall, a really hot start in this game, which I like to see, because sometimes we do struggle a little bit from the start. So that was definitely a good thing, in my opinion, to kind of get things rolling the right way in this game to get that revenge win. And then to your point, they really did shoot the ball well across the board. Everybody pitched in and hit a few shots each. There's some big threes in this game. So overall, a great showing, especially to kind of get a little bit of a bounce back revenge win against Kentucky. They're one of the tougher teams. They don't have a great record, but they're not an easy out at all. So I was really pleased with the way the team rallied together, especially missing some key pieces with Talia Scott being out, Poffenbarger being out. So they all rallied together, and everybody kind of picked up their own load and did a great job in this game.
Yeah, so true. And kind of as we stick with the Wildcats of Kentucky, Arkansas men's basketball took them on Saturday, the 27th, where our College Gameday came to town. And, that's one of the first times they've been to Fayetteville for basketball. And I think everybody even myself was questioning really why they were coming, with how this season has been going for Arkansas. I would have thought that we would have had a better chance of them coming last year, when we had a much better season going, and you had guys like Anthony Black, Nick Smith, Jordan Walsh, high touted freshmen that were playing really well. But I mean, this team always seems to also get up for this Kentucky game, even if we are not that great and having a pretty bad season. And I mean, we'll jump in here. Arkansas made this a game. They fought right up until the end, and it was actually a fresh game to see these guys play with some intensity and energy that we haven't seen a ton this season, except for maybe the Duke game or the Purdue game. But they really came out and showed some fight in this game, where they only lost 63-57. I'll take a 6-point loss against Kentucky, the way this season has been going, any day, just to see that this team was able to come out and, put the highest scoring team in the country to 63 points when they average 80 plus points a game. And so we'll start out Makai Mitchell, leading scorer with 12 points, not a guy that has been a big contributor this season. Off and on, he'll have good games, but if you remember the Kentucky game last year, always seems to get up to play a really good game against Kentucky. Him and his brother, Mikhail, had a block party last year against Kentucky in Rupp Arena. And so something about Kentucky, and Makai Mitchell likes to play well. So he led all scorers with 12 points. You had Khalif Battle and Tremont Mark combining with 11 points. So, they really kind of focused on shutting down Tremont Mark in this game. I don't blame them when he's your leading scorer, especially in SEC play, averaging big double-digit scoring for Arkansas. And you had Jalen Graham chip in with 8 on the rebounding side. Makai Mitchell with 13 rebounds, so he got himself a nice double-double in this game, coming up big with those 13 rebounds. And then you had Tremont Mark follow that up with 8, and Chandler Losser with 7. So some bigger guys getting in and getting the boards, which you like to see. They rebounded really well against Kentucky for what they had to go up against with Kentucky's 3 7-footers that they have. And then shooting-wise, could have shot better in this game, at least from the three-point line. When you talk about shooting overall, they shot 33.3% from the field, 20 of 60. From the three-point line, 21.1%. So they only made 4 of 19, and I think that's really where, if you look at the margin between our threes and Kentucky's, that's where they really, got the momentum going late in the game. And then from the free throw line, 72.2%, 13 out of 18. So, great intensity in this game. I love to see Makai Mitchell have a pretty good game. If he could play like that on a consistent basis, this team might start finding more success. They need a big to really step up and, play like a big should. And I think that's what you got from Mekhi Mitchell in this game. So, what's your thoughts on this, this hard fought loss that the Hogs came out and played?
Well, I think it was a surprise, and I think even some of the players may have been somewhat surprised with how well we actually came out and played defense. I think the communication had some improvement over the week. They were rotating a little bit better on D. There wasn't as many free cuts to the back or to the back of the back cuts and things of that nature that they were allowing. So some adjustments there that helped us out. And I think to your point, a testament as to why that was a little bit more successful was Mekhi Mitchell played very well, got more minutes than normal, and he had a pretty good defensive game outside of his offense and rebounding as well. And then Jalen Graham actually played pretty well in this game as well, kind of plugging up some lanes and things. But overall, the intensity, like you said, from the start was there. I think the players could feel the environment was big, and fans had been there all day, for College Game Day that morning. And so I think the fans kind of helped will some effort and intensity into the team for this game, and that really showed through just on the defensive intensity. Yeah, we still missed some shots and didn't shoot as well from threes we should have, and that's one of the big reasons we lost this game. But we stayed in this game due to our defensive intensity and our aggressiveness on the rebounding side of things. And that's something that we really haven't seen for several weeks now, honestly. So it was kind of a breath of fresh air, like you said, to see a little bit more effort across the board on defense and then around the glass. Would have liked to see us, kind of try to drive in a little bit more, but that is tough to do with the size that Kentucky had. So all in all, I felt like we had a successful, a little bit of improvement, in this game. I'm curious to see how much that bleeds into the rest of the season. Obviously, there's a lot of things that are going on off the court that I think may hinder any type of consistent success and improvement with the way there's just bad things happening, I guess, right now around the basketball program that are going to hinder consistency, frankly. And that's one thing you got to have right now. So we'll kind of see where everything shakes out from this. Maybe it's a little bit of something they can build on, just at least from the effort side of thing. I know that's something that Coach Muss has been preaching on a lot. And I think just us as fans have seen that week in and week out, that some games, it just seems like the effort just isn't there. And I don't know if that's player entitlement or any other things of that nature that we expected to be better this year, and the kids didn't put in the work to actually prove that. I don't know. There's plenty of things that you can try to speculate on that, but the one thing that you can see on the court is effort, and we haven't seen that from time to time. So I'm really hoping that we can finish out the season with this level of effort in the remainder of our games. It may not account to wins, kind of how this game went, but this isn't an embarrassing loss like we've suffered for the last few weeks in a lot of our SEC matchups, just like Ole Miss we talked about earlier in the show. So if we can harness that and not lose the rest of our games in dramatic fashion, or maybe steal a few wins, I think that would be a great way to salvage things. Even if you don't make the tournament, things of that nature. But that definitely helps, in my mind, keep some positive things flowing our way from a recruiting standpoint. Obviously, we're going to have a big haul in the transfer portal for next year's class. So you don't really want to finish the entire year just with the worst taste in your mouth possible. So really think that this game could be a somewhat of a turning point for us to, understand that, look, we're not going to win a whole lot more games probably unless, some dramatic changes happen in our shooting and things of that nature. But we are still a tough team. We still can play hard. We still can fight, for a full 40 minutes and play some close games. So it's kind of sad that we're talking about moral victories here. It kind of feels like football all over again. But anyway, I'm trying to take the positives where we can get them. So overall, I definitely love the effort in this game, and I was glad to see a couple of guys get involved a little bit more than they have this year, especially with Mekhi Mitchell.
Yeah, so true. And, that defense that you were talking about looked a lot better and looked like more of a traditional Arkansas defensive team. If you look at the stats and the box score, Arkansas had 9 blocks in this game, which is what you're used to seeing with this Arkansas team and the type of team that Mussman runs. And, continuing on the praise for Mekhi Mitchell, he had 4 of those blocks. And so he was just having himself a night. He felt the big environment and really stepped up for Arkansas, and hopefully he can harness that and play more consistently. And if he does, he's going to play his way into a lot more minutes for Arkansas, especially when, some other players aren't necessarily stepping up. And like you said, we're not we hate to talk about the moral victories in a sense, but at this point, you got to take what you're going to get, and hopefully they can harness some of this energy and what worked well in this game and take it on the road, as they've got 2 road matchups this week on Wednesday night. That's going to be a good game, and Arkansas is probably best chance to get a road win, the rest of this SEC slate. And then when you talk about it, it's really important to think through, like Seth said, what this team is going to look like. You don't want to end the season on a bad run of things. So hopefully they can kind of find some momentum, even with it being a loss, and go from there. And when you look at things, if you watch Coach Muss's press conference after the game, he even mentioned for this game, he specifically tried different things. He ran some sets that they ran at Nevada that he had never ran here before, because he's just really trying to figure out something to work for this offense. And I think he kind of maybe tapped into something that will work for this team. And the one thing that he mentioned, he's still trying to figure out, which it's, at this point in the season, if you haven't figured it out yet, I don't know if you're going to, is more consistent play at point guard. At this point in the season, I think you've got to go with a hot hand on whatever night it is. If it's Ellis or if it's Keon Minifield, if it's Layden Block or whoever's playing well that night, I think you got to stick with them and come to it from that approach, because the first half of the season has shown me anything. It's that we do not have consistent play at hardly any positions other than Tremont Mark. He's been the one consistent person that's been there and has, for the most part, performed the same every game. He'll have a few games where he doesn't score as much, but he's the one guy that is out there every game that you know what you can expect and what he can play up to. And so hopefully Arkansas, like we said, I think today was travel day for them, and they'll play Kentucky tomorrow on Wednesday, and hopefully we can get a good game there. Hopefully get a win, get back in the winning column, get a road win, as the schedule does not get much easier down the stretch, as we have some tough road games. And, I just don't see very many victories. And then this weekend, if we can get a win, we head down to Baton Rouge to play LSU. So some big things coming. And
hey, real quick, we play Missouri. I think you said Kentucky, but it's Missouri.
Yeah, we play Missouri. Yeah. And so hopefully we can get that win. I do know we do have a chance to get some road victories, but like we said, not a good chance other than maybe this game. And we'll have to see where that lands. But hopefully, this could be a revenge game for Arkansas. They're going up against former player Connor Vanover that transferred to Missouri this past season. It'd be nice to have Trevor and Brazil back. Then you'd have a battle of 2 players against their former teams. But from reports, Brazil didn't practice yesterday, and most likely he is not going to play against Missouri, and most likely against LSU either, unless there's some drastic changes. Like Muss said in his press conference, he was not even close to being ready to go for Kentucky, and there's no way he was just going to wake up the next day and be ready to go for Missouri. So we hope he gets recovered and can get back this season, before we end things out. So we'll jump over to Arkansas women's basketball, as they had a road trip of their own up to Missouri, and they got the win there. We continue to talk about they continue to show up and find ways to win, and they got the win here 67-58 on the 28th, and Sailor Poffenbarger decided to have herself a game. She came out and led all scores for the Ladybacks with 24 points. Michaela Daniels and Samara Spencer also put up 13 points each. So fantastic there. And then on the rebounding side of things, you had Sailor come in with 9. So close to having a double-double there for her night. And, her mom was at the game, and that was big to see her come and show out for her mom that was there. And so when you look at things there, you had followed up her rebounding with 9 with Samara Spencer with 6 and Miriam Dowda with 4. Shooting-wise, Arkansas had another great shooting night, and I think they're really starting to get more consistent. We just talked about their previous shooting night against Kentucky. Well, they followed it up against Missouri here with 44.9% from the field, going 22 of 49. A whopping 46.2% from the three-point line, going 12 of 26. And they also hit 78.6% from the free throw line, going 11 of 14. A side note for all those threes that were hit, majority of those were from Sailor Poffenbarger, as she had herself a night from the 3-point line where she went 8 of 11. So she just was feeling it. She sat out that Kentucky game, and I'm sure she was, a fresh break for her to come back and, put up a big game. So what's your thoughts on this game here and, how the Hogs came out and just dominated in this one?
Yeah, another big win. I mean, shooting the ball well obviously helps things out a lot, but this was a game that they didn't get as many shots up as they sometimes do, only shooting 49 attempts, but they made the most out of those attempts, and I think they played pretty dang good defense in this one as well. Did a lot of intangible things. Don't really show up on the stat sheet well. They're doing really well in their chemistry on moving off the ball. Being in position, whether it's on defense or offense, where they're getting each other open looks and stuff, where there's a lot of movement, even on the offensive possessions from people that aren't, point guard handling the ball at that time or whatever, to where they're creating open looks for each other. So that's something that I think is boding really well for this team. They're really clicking on all cylinders right now, and you can just see that in the chemistry that they are playing with on the offensive and defensive side of things. So that's been fun to see. And then obviously when you have somebody like Sailor Poffenbarger just pop off in a game like this where it didn't seem like she could miss, I mean, that's going to go well for you as far as the win-loss column goes. So it's been fun to watch some of these players really step up week in and week out. It seems like there's sometimes different names in that leading scorer category, which is a good thing. And definitely gives me high hopes for whenever we get Talia Scott back. Still no real timetable on kind of what that looks like. We've been trying to keep updates on that as best we can, but no real timetable on that yet. But as soon as she comes back, I think that adds one more piece to the puzzle that can contribute on any given night. We've seen it, already at the beginning of the year, how impressive she was. So just getting her back to go along with the team as they are right now and how much development they've all had. This team's got a really good shot at making a deep run in the SEC tournament, NCAA tournament, things of that nature. I still don't think we're quite to the upper echelon LSU, South Carolina level. But to your point, we could really make a good shot at getting that kind of third, fourth place mark in the SEC. And that's nothing to slouch at, especially with the way, women's SEC basketball is right now. That's pretty impressive if we're able to do that level of play and competition in the tough SEC the way it is right now. So it's been fun to watch them develop throughout the year. And I've got high hopes that, the healthier we get, the better we're going to get. So been a fun year for the Lady Razorbacks, which is refreshing considering how rough of a year it's been for the men's basketball team.
Yeah. And just to give you an update there, like Seth said, we can continue to give you updates on Talia Scott. Well, we kind of have an update as one day ago, she tweeted out the return ... So what to make of that? I don't know if that means
nice.
Right. And so I don't know if that means it's going to be this next game or the game after that, but I think that just shows you she's planning on making a comeback, and it's going to happen here soon. And they're going to have a nice stretch here as, they have some big games themselves coming up that could make a big difference in SEC play. And like Seth said, finishing towards the upper side of the standings there, as they have Alabama coming to Fayetteville this Thursday, and then Auburn coming to town on Sunday. So two big matchups against two teams that are, just up there, like Arkansas, fighting for one of those upper half of the SEC standings. And if they get Talia Scott back, this team has the chance to be a scary team, especially the way they've developed without her. To have her back and with some of this consistency they developed, I wouldn't want to play this team right now, especially at this time, getting ready, getting hot at the right time, if you will.
Very true.
And so with that, we'll take a quick ad break here, and we'll come back and give you the latest on Arkansas Gymnastics.
You know what I like? I like to be comfortable. I also love representing my favorite sports teams. And in the Clutch, I am able to have the best of both worlds. In the Clutch Apparel is your one-stop shop for all things sports. They have officially licensed gear from all your favorite teams and players from the NHL, MLB, NFL, and more. They have sports classic tees from yesteryear and beyond. Check out their full website in the link down below. When you enter the promo code Variety Sports, you get 10% off everything site-wide. Feel comfortable with your sports apparel and go over to their website now at endtheclutch.com. And don't forget to use our code Variety Sports to get 10% off.
All right, we are back now with Arkansas Gymnastics, as this past Friday they took on Auburn on the 26th. And I personally was able to attend this meet, and it did not disappoint. It was fantastic as always. And Arkansas got the win in this one, where they beat Auburn 197.225 to 196.75. So another big win here. Arkansas was close to hitting their program record. They're consistently performing at a high level. All three meets this season, they've scored at least 197, so that's big, and that's showing some consistency here. In this one, Auburn came out and unfortunately outscored Arkansas on the vault 49.275 to 49.225. Like we stressed all season last year, these were decided in very minimal points. There's not a huge gap between these scores. And, you look at Arkansas outscoring Auburn on the bars. They outscored them 49.400 to 48.875. That's a little bit bigger margin than some of these other ones, and I think that's the biggest one of this meet. You flip over to beam, Auburn outscored Arkansas 49.2 to 49.125. And then on the floor performance, one of my personal favorite parts of the meets is they outscored them 49.475 to 49.325. Just a fantastic show. You're going to get your money's worth when you go watch this Arkansas Gymnastics team. And Coach Weber has this team sitting in a good spot. I think she's really built this program up. And it's fantastic to see the success that they're having, especially in the SEC, where we've talked about you have a ton of programs that are leading the nation and just bringing SEC gymnastics and gymnastics as a whole to a higher rate of viewership and things of that nature.
Yeah, it's definitely cool to see that. I think this has been a hot start to the season, even in comparison to last year. And we had a good year last year as well, but I don't think we scored 197 plus in our first three meets last year. So that's been kind of a cool bar to set, I guess you could say, that, okay, we're shooting for 197 plus, and if we don't get that, it's a disappointment. You can still have a good week and score 196.7, things of that nature, and that's still a pretty high score in team gymnastics like that. But I think they have really made some improvements across all categories. And that's showing right now that the consistency from each different event is really combining into some record-setting scores for us. I think the first 2 weeks or two meets of the season, we set program records back-to-back weeks there. So that's been fun to see. And this was a big win here as well, and another tough matchup. And like you said, the SEC, there's no weeks that are easy. At all. Every single meet seems like it's got rank implications and things of that nature tied along with it. So for them to take that kind of pressure each meet that they have and be able to perform at the level that they have so far, if that consistency continues, we've got a really good season in store. And I'm really excited about where this team could actually fall out as far as best teams in Arkansas gymnastics history, as well as, obviously postseason play and things of that nature. So it's going to be a fun ride. And to your point, I think the way that gymnastics has gotten a lot more exposure over the last year, 2.5 years, 3 years, things of that nature, that's really helped kind of provide some limelight to these athletes. And I think they play up to that. It seems like everybody's programs across the nation are setting attendance records. They're having special events to showcase gymnastics in their basketball facilities, or even, like their football stadiums and things like that. So there's been some really cool things across the nation that are helping gymnastics get more exposure. And I think that does nothing but good things for the sport. So it's been fun ride to watch so far. And I'm excited to see where things go for this program.
Couldn't agree more. And then in true Arkansas fashion, even getting the win, Arkansas dropped to number 7 in the latest poll, where they were still ranked top 10 in all events. And you don't want to miss this Friday's meet, as they are headed down south to take on LSU in what is another one of those top tier gymnastics programs. So definitely tune into that this Friday. That's going to be a great night to watch some gymnastics. And I'm sure it's going to be another yet again close matchup that could be decided in just a very few mere points. And we'll jump over to Arkansas tennis, where Arkansas women's tennis, they beat Purdue 4-3 on January 26th, and then ended up getting a loss against Michigan 4-0 on the 27th. On the flip side of that, the men's tennis team beat New Mexico 4-3 on the 26th, and South Alabama 6-1 on the 28th. And then as we are inching ever closer to softball and baseball, they are getting here. And I think as the hype continues to grow, it's going to be a fantastic season for both teams. When you talk about Arkansas softball, some news that involve future Arkansas Razorbacks, you had 3 Arkansas commits named to the USA Softball Under-18 Women's National Team. Sailor Timmerman, Cameron Harrison, and Ella McDowell are all players that will be on that team that are committed to play for Arkansas. So that just shows you the type of talent Coach Stiefel is bringing in. And then we'll jump over to Arkansas baseball, where they got some scrimmages kicked off this past weekend, where they had one on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And we got a little bit of taste of what we could potentially see from this Arkansas offense. We know the pitching is going to be there with the starters coming back with Hagen Smith, Brady Tigert, guys of that nature. But when you turn to the flip side of that and the offensive firepower that this team is going to have and be able to show out on the diamond, we'll just jump in on that first scrimmage on Friday. You had Kendall Diggs go yard twice, with one of his home runs going 359 feet with a exit of 100 miles an hour, and his second one 368 feet with an exit of 104 miles an hour. So he's coming out swinging hot. And then one of the transfers that was hyped up, and if you're anything like me, learn to say this name because you'll probably be hearing a lot of it. Wahiwa Aloy, the transfer from Sacramento State, hit himself a home run that went 368 with a velo of 109. And then freshman catcher Ryder Helfrich had himself a home run on that first scrimmage, going 353 with 102 exit. So this first scrimmage, what are you taking from these home runs these guys are hitting?
Well, it's exciting to see, man, and it's definitely something to get hyped up about. It seems like the Bombers are back. You know what I'm saying? So, Kendall Diggs, obviously, I think is going to lead the way with a lot of our offensive firepower. There's a lot of guys behind him that can really rake, though. So, I do know one of his home runs did come off of Hagen Smith. So just hearing those two names together, Kendall hitting one off of him is impressive, to say the least, with how good of a pitcher Hagen is. I don't know, Hagen can pull some punches, things of that nature when he's pitching to his own guys. I doubt it. Those guys are competitive. So I think that really does give you kind of a true testament to how good of a hitter Kendall Diggs is. I know we talked to Dylan Carter, and he said Kendall is one of the hardest guys to get out in this roster. Very disciplined hitter. We've seen that, throughout the previous couple of seasons, that the walks that he's able to draw, he's a very selective hitter. But then when he does find a pitch he likes, he can absolutely knock the cover off of it. So definitely not a surprise to me to see some of these numbers here just in the first scrimmage. It's good to see some of the transfers and freshmen get involved as well, just on the home run side of things. So I think that's also a testament to how deep we have the potential to be. These other two scrimmages we're about to list off, there's a lot more names in there as well, that I think it's going to be an exciting year with anybody being able to get theirs on any given day, which was going to be fun from a fan's perspective. You get to hear that train horn, and the crowd gets loud and a little bit into things. And heck, man, we as Arkansas fans, we all travel pretty well for baseball, which is a good thing because a lot of fan bases don't do that for their baseball programs. So anywhere we go, there's going to be fans calling the Hogs for these home runs. So I'm excited to kind of see the home run marks that we hit this year. I think it's going to be up there with some of the better teams we've had in previous years as far as home run metrics. I think there's obviously a lot of other things to baseball than just home runs, but I think that's going to be one thing that a lot of fans get excited about this year.
Yeah, we've got a few more to highlight here. We're not going to take up a lot, but another name that I think you need to watch out for this season is another transfer, Jack Wagner, that came in from Tarleton State. He absolutely lit it up in the second scrimmage, where his home run went 414 feet at 106 off the bat. So talk about another guy that can come in and just smash the ball. I expect a combination of him and Kendall Diggs can be racking up the home run totals this year. And then on that third day of scrimmage, a guy that we didn't see a ton of bat from last year, like a great defensive catcher, Hudson Polk, came out and had himself one bomb. in that third scrimmage on Sunday where it went 424 with 109 off the bat. You talk about lining that one up.
Yeah, that is a smash.
And so, these aren't coming off of just, average guys. This is an Arkansas pitching staff that, like we said, Dylan Carter said, is a deep pitching staff this year, and they are raring to go. And I think it's just a testament of we got good hitters, and we've also got good pitching staff. And speaking of that good pitching staff, you had Hagen Smith named per D1 Baseball preseason All-American and also named SEC preseason pitcher of the year. So big accolades for the lefty that I think he's going to have himself a big season and hopefully get Arkansas to Omaha and lead the way.
Yeah, I think that's the goal and the expectation, obviously, but I think he's primed to have probably his best year yet. And I'm excited to see how we use him. The past season and a half or so, dating back to last season and then prior to that, he was more of a starter, but then we started trying to kind of roll him in as like a long relief. And then even in a closing scenario here and there where, we were trying to stretch him to where we could use him in more than one game and things of that nature. And he excelled in every single scenario we threw him into. So I really think it's going to be kind of a fun challenge for Dave Van Horn, honestly, on understanding how he needs to use his pitchers, because he does have a little bit more depth, even in starting and relief rotation right now, than he's probably had in years past, to where he can use Hagen in many different ways. He can use Brady Tiger in many different ways. You can obviously use McIntyre the same way. McIntyre has started games, he's closed games, he's done relief pitching. So you've got three guys right there that I think could be your 1, 2, 3 starters. Or it could be not that at all, and you could have Cody Frank starting. I mean, the sky's the limit with the way this rotation has potential to shape out to be. You got the transfers from Texas Tech, Molina, and he's touted to be arguably one of the better starters that we're going to have this year. So I think Dave Van Horn's got his work cut out for him just on understanding the best way to get the most out of each individual pitcher in the scenario that they thrive the best in. But I am excited to see how we're able to kind of keep other teams guessing in a sense where, okay, yeah, Hagen Smith started. He was our ace for the first couple of weeks of the season, and then boom, you can't expect him as the ace anymore because now he's closing for us. And really that does a lot against, the opposing teams on understanding how to prepare as hitters to face us, because it just completely throws off your mindset on thinking how our rotation is going to go and who you're going to be facing day one, and you think about that, and then boom, a fresh face is out there that you weren't expecting. That can throw a wrench in the gears, and I think that's going to be done on purpose this year in scenarios. So I'm excited to see that. I know I kind of can go down a rabbit hole talking about our pitching this year. It's just going to be so fun, and I'm so excited to see how everything shakes out and just see how Dave Van Horn can kind of rally this team together and make all the pieces fit. There's a lot of pieces in this puzzle.
Yeah, good problem to have. And like you said, if anybody can figure out Dave Van Horn's your guy, that he may play with it the first few weeks of the season, but by the time midseason gets here, SEC play, he's going to have that fine-tuned, and he's going to know what he's doing. And so as we kind of get ready to wrap up here, upcoming events, we've mentioned most of these already. You've got Arkansas men's basketball, going on the road to Missouri, and then at 7:30 on January 31st. Arkansas women's basketball has Alabama coming to town at 8 p.m. on February 1st on Thursday. Arkansas Gymnastics traveling to LSU on Friday at 7:30. So be sure to tune into that one. I'm sure that's going to be a firework meet to begin with. Arkansas men's basketball traveling to LSU on Saturday the 3rd at 11 a.m. So an early tip for Arkansas. And then Arkansas women's basketball rounds things off with a matchup against Auburn on Sunday at 5 p.m. on the 4th. And so big matchups coming up. Hopefully, Arkansas men's basketball can kind of get on a little win here. Women's basketball continues to, do what they do and figure out ways to win these games. Gymnastics has a big matchup against one of the arguably top programs in the country right now. And we'll keep you updated on those. So don't miss those updates. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcast. And thank you for listening to today's episode of Whoop Pig Weekly, and we'll be right back here next week.